I'm Ivory Lanou, and my business is in Sedona. It's Sedona Soul Sisters. So I'm in Arizona, in the United States, if you couldn't tell by my accent. And I have been a medium my whole life. I've seen spirit and angels and talked to them, heard them. Since I was a toddler, I have clear memories of that. But there's a funny story coming up about that. Oh boy, now I feel angels and spirit coming in as we're talking about this. So good, because it's kind of hot in here. It gives me chills. The first thing I did before I even ever thought about being a medium was I joined a spiritual circle in this area and started going, and they had guest speakers who were channels, mediums, psychics, astrologists. And I just thought it was great to get this broad spectrum of what's out there and meet them, find out what they had to say. It benefited me greatly because I was very resistant for decades to doing this work under my own name face to face. So I had a career in radio. I had a long career in mental health, which, as you can imagine, is not conducive to saying, yes, I hear dead people talking to me. Yes, I saw a spirit walking through this facility, and I did. But if I said that, I could end up in the lockup unit. So I kept all that to myself, and I developed that on the side. I did have a spiritual teacher who really helped me with psychic development, which is always a great place to start with mediumship. You know, as you develop your intuitive abilities, you are developing your mediumship abilities and gaining confidence in the information that you get. The next thing I did was start giving psychic readings, and I did that online under an assumed name, not showing my face, for a long time. And I started being popular as a business intuitive. I did corporate intuitive work primarily for about a decade on the side. But there was a time, this is the amusing part of this. I was living in Cave Creek, which is right next to Carefree in Arizona. And I was watching the Long Island Medium. And it was about her childhood. And she was talking about something that had happened to her, hearing voices talking to her as a child. And my then boyfriend said, Ivory, that sounds like your childhood. And I had a true epiphany moment. It was literally like a giant light bulb went off over my head. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm a medium. Like I was 50 years old and didn't know that I was a medium. I'd been seeing spirits, angels, never ever. I always called myself a sensitive. So I had a paranormal investigative team for a long time. And I said, no, I'm not a medium. No, I'm a sensitive. But I would hear music and voices that no one heard, and then it would show up on the recordings later. So now I always tell people, if you say you're a sensitive, that just means you're not ready to embrace that you're a medium. My angels always laugh when I talk about this story, because they say, you know, until it's time for you to know, there was no reason for you to know. It wasn't important. You weren't ready to do that work. It wasn't time for it. But once I did, then I felt this internal huge drive to just go forward with it. And one of the things I loved working in mental health was helping people with the grieving process. And I always realized I could look at what other mediums were doing and see that that's pretty much the ultimate grieving assistance you could give anybody to communicate, help them communicate with their loved ones on the other side. And I thought, wow, they are doing such a great service, but I never ever thought it would be me. But when my angels started saying, you need to find a mentor. And as I said, I was living in Cave Creek. I know you don't know Arizona probably, but that's side by side with a little town called Carefree. And I'm looking at mediums in Arizona online, and one pops up, and her name's Suzanne Wilson. And I thought, the angel said, that is her. Like literally they were singing, that's her. And I clicked on her website, and boom, she's the Carefree medium. So her office was 2.5 miles from my house at that time. And I was going through a horrendous time in my life. I was just a mess emotionally, and still my angels didn't care. They never understand human emotions. They don't get it. They're just going to be, you need to become a me. You need to develop your mediumship skills. So I called Suzanne and we talked, and she said she'd see me. She would go ahead and see me. She could feel my mediumship ability. And she said, I want to work with you. So I went to my first class with her, and it was private classes back when she still did that. And she said, ordinarily, I would never take on a student in the condition you're in right now, because your energy is just pinging all over the place. But my angels told me if I don't, we're going to lose you. And she was right. You know, I needed something positive to hold on to. So that was like a life-saving decision right there for me to go ahead and forge ahead, even though it wasn't the best time in my life by a long shot. But I needed that, and things started happening really fast. And once I was taking those classes with her, which I did for a year, I started having these incredible experiences with my angels giving me signs. Like I would say, okay, I would have a dream, and in the dream, this angel said, I'm your master guide. And I said, okay, if you really were my master guide, bring me a white feather. And the next morning I went out on my back patio, and there's these little balls about this big of this gray fluff, which I've never seen before or since. And they were just sort of rolling around on my enclosed back patio. And I picked one up, and a little gust of wind blew all the gray fluff away. And in my hand was a little white feather. And I thought, okay, I can take a hint. So things started happening like that more and more with the angels. It wasn't long. Well, let me go back. I don't want to jump ahead. Suzanne told me, do about 7 practice mediumship sessions with people from her Facebook group. And a lot of them were in the UK. And it was great. I enjoyed it. But I personally felt like for my security to feel like I'm really ready to do this, like I feel okay about charging for it, I did 45. And finally, I wanted to study more with Suzanne, but she booted me out. She said, it's time for you to fly. I cannot teach you anymore. You need to go start your business. You're ready, and then some. Go do it. So that's probably the first thing I would say is you may never come to a place where you feel like you're ready to do this professionally. And it requires a leap of faith, stepping out on that limb, not knowing what's going to happen. But I heard some of you talking about having been studying this for like 7 years. I know you have to be at the place and then some where you're ready to do this. And nothing gives you the confidence in your readings like doing readings. And at some point, you may say, well, I feel okay about doing practice readings. I'm just not ready to charge money. But something I have to tell my students all the time is, if you don't value the service you're giving, who else will? So maybe you could start with asking them to give you a gift. It can be a candle or a set of cards, or, just some little token exchange of energy, and see how that feels for a while. Those are it's the lack of confidence and feeling like you're not ready to charge money for your services that keeps people from doing this business professionally. So a couple other things maybe a few other things. I wish I had really understood that it's okay for me to say, I never say I won't read for you. I'm not mean. I'm not going to say that to a person, but if their energy is really dark or negative, or they're extremely closed, I'll try to probe and get the messages from spirit, but their energy blocks it. I will just say, I'm so sorry, but I'm not getting anything. It could just be me, could just be the spirits today, and I just don't continue with the reading. I suggest they move on, try somebody else. And sometimes it is, all those things I mentioned. It can be their energy doesn't mesh with your energy. It could be they want to they kind of have like an ulterior motive, which I've had clients come to me for that. You can feel when somebody doesn't believe in what you do and they're trying to catch you in some way. So that doesn't feel good for my energy either. I'm a very strong empath, so I'm extremely sensitive to other people's energy. So now I know if somebody just doesn't feel good to me, or they're so closed, they're just not allowing me to read for them, I'll just say, I'm so sorry, but I'm not getting anything. And I give it like 10 minutes and that's it. Bring it to a close. After that, it's like pulling teeth. It's not flowing. You're not getting the information because they're not open to it. So they need to be as open a channel as you are. Another thing is that I didn't realize that I was going to have visitations and information from my mediumship clients before they ever came to see me, and even sometimes weeks afterwards. So I might be on my way to Sedona to my office to do mediumship, and a spirit comes into my car and is chatting away and telling me things for this reading. I'm like, oh my gosh, can you wait till we start the reading? I don't have anything to write with. And it's kind of funny, or they'll come to my house and I'll see them and hear them. And, it's not just while you're in session with your mediumship client that this will happen. You can set clear boundaries around your gift, but you can't control everything. And that's true. Like, I do quite a bit of missing persons cases, and that's especially true with that. Often the people are deceased, but they're coming once they figure out that you can hear them or see where their body is. They come through frequently until their body is located, and sometimes even afterwards. Something Suzanne told me, I don't want to intimate she didn't tell me these things, but it's different to be told something and to figure out how urgent it is for you. And a big one was how urgent it is for me to protect my energy. One of them is deciding who I will and won't read for. Another one is not doing too many readings in a day or a week. I've learned my limit, and I'm talking about mediumship. Mediumship can be very draining. For most people it is. And if you do too much of it, you'll get physically ill. And the times that I push myself, because let's give an example, and I'm not sorry I did it, but I just learned a lesson. The Afterlife Symposium, where I was one of the mediums doing readings for people, and I had set it up so I do X number of mediumship a day. But there were parents who were crying, please see me. I need to connect with my daughter or my son. And I am a softie. Okay, I squeezed a few more in. And then I was sick for 2 weeks after that conference, just flattened energetically and physically. So that was a really good lesson for me, that I need to know my own boundaries with my health, with my energy, my own limitations, and I need to protect it, because if I don't, who else will? And the last thing is, it's okay to deviate from the way that you learn to do mediumship. I like to tell my students, this is how I do it. It's not exactly how I learned to do it. And you have no requirements to do it exactly the way I do. I think it's pretty natural, whether you're a medium, a healer, a psychic, whatever it is, that you learn some techniques. And then as you do it, you realize that at some point you've gone a little off that path and created your own methods that work best for you. What you learned worked best for your mentor, and that's fine. And that's why it can be a little different to go to different mediums, because they have their own style, their own methods. So I think that it's okay to not try to be like somebody else, or especially like everybody else, whatever that means, and just let your gift unfold in its own way that feels right for you and works best for you. And I'm not sure what else to say. Like, I don't want to take up the whole time talking about my background. That's pretty much the highlights. Is there any questions you have?
Hi, Ivy. Thank you for the pointers that I was writing them down. They're very helpful. Do you also channel? And if so, how did you bridge that connection? And also, um, how did you, I mean, I'm trying to find my guide. It's not clear to me, and I don't think I've done that. I don't think I've connected with a guide. But if I scream in my house, I need help, please help me, stuff starts to happen. So not through
I
meditation, but if I put it out there with a lot of energy, I need y'all's help, then stuff starts to happen.
I have a book coming out that's exactly that, like exactly step by step how to see, hear, feel your angels and guides, connect with them, figure out their names, all of these things. So it's coming out. It's in line editing process right now. So that's going to help you.
Okay.
It's called Let Your Angels Lead.
Okay.
But I will say I do channel, but I've been fighting that the hardest of all since I was 18 years old. I knew I could do it, but it scares me. And so the only time I really feel comfortable doing it is I have a circle that meets, and it's the Nyandala Circle. We meet at my house. And this is channeling a group, this group that comes through, this very high frequency group that reached out to me and my friend. And so we meet and channel messages from Nyandala, and they come to us and just give us this. They're here now. When I'm talking about them, I'm getting covered in very hard chills. That I do feel totally comfortable with because their frequency is incredibly high, and like angels. And also I have 2 medium friends there in the circle with me if something starts to go bad, which it did affect me really hard once, and they had to help me get out of the room, and we had to end the circle. It was just too much overwhelming energy. So I don't, how can I say this? I channel angels in that the number one thing that has happened is I end up doing angelic work. I didn't try to do that, but people come to me all the time for angelic channeling, where I just tell them the names and the appearance of their angels, the messages they have for them. But to me, it's the same as mediumship. It's mediumship with angels, mediumship with spirit. You know, it feels the same to me. And so channeling to me is when, and it's happened, when a spirit enters my body and I feel it. It's like there's too much in my body to hold the 2 presences at once, and they move my limbs and they start talking through me. I don't really care for that. So if I had a mentor to help me develop that and feel more comfortable with it, that'd be great. But I have not found that person yet. And I'm so busy that it's kind of on the back burner anyway. But I think that you can do this work and never channel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I'll look forward to your book.
Psychic has always been one of my very strong areas. But what I'm doing in my work at this point in time is for evidence. I'm asking them to give me something that's really good, strong evidence, like an object that will be related to the receiver. But what I'm doing, if I'm getting it even a little bit ahead of time, I'm holding that first bit of information. Example, the other week I got an oval picture. But then I saw that it was a dark frame, but I discounted that dark frame because I thought I was going into my mind. And I'm finding I'm doing that a lot, and I'm missing those gold star moments because I'm doing that.
When you second guess yourself, you're probably holding back the one thing your client needs to hear the most. That's a really good point, Susie. Like that's a thing I only learned through doing a lot of readings. Was I would think this thing and think, oh, that's too weird, I'm not going to say it. And then afterwards we would talk about it and they'd be like, oh, and start crying. They're like, oh my gosh, my father did this or my mother did this. So now no matter how crazy it is, how weird it seems, I just say it. And you can't really sit in a mediumship. You're not able to filter too much between, am I getting mediumship hit or am I getting psychic? Because psychic boosts your mediumship. So you're going to get some information the same way. And I say, go with it. You know, it's really hard to totally shut down your psychic ability because that's the core of all of this work. So I think you're totally safe and just going for it. Say it.
I positively stink at psychic readings, but I'm fair to middling with the mediumship stuff. But the psychic stuff just goes zoop right by me. I don't know what the problem is, don't really care. But I get stuck on things that everybody else said a medium is supposed to do or be able to do. I cannot meditate for love of everything that's holy. But fair to middling at the mediumship. I got a lot of holes to plug.
One good thing about that is that you won't have to worry about, am I getting this through mediumship or through psychic? You'll know it's through mediumship and you can be confident about that. And I wouldn't worry about it. I have some friends who are not psychic at all, but they're really good mediums. So I don't think you don't, when I say it's the core, it's because normally when you study mediumship, first you develop your intuitive abilities to the highest degree, which helps you then with your mediumship, but you're able to do it without it. There is no one size fits all with anything in the world, this included. This is another example of just let it happen. You were given a gift. Don't worry about that psychic. There's enough psychics in the world, I think.
Okay, I thank you.
You're welcome.
Recently, I've been hearing that I should start working with angels for healing or what I want to do. And because I've had like a lot of very weird, strange things happen to me over the years. And I recently had to move from my house because I was living in a place that had a lot of spirit activity, and I was getting to the point where I couldn't sleep, and it was interfering with my day because I was always being, I guess approached as if they thought I could help them and what had happened. And I wasn't really aware of why I felt so awful in my apartment and anyway, so what I don't want to do is I don't want to get back into that kind of situation again right now. So I want to protect myself, but at the same time, I want to work with angels. I was told that I could, and I just don't know even how to. I was told you just have to choose one, and I don't know how do you choose one? How do you know,
are you talking about angels or archangels? Because that's a totally different topic.
I don't know.
Let's talk about angels. Is that okay? So your angels,
let's talk about angels,
which is really my focus, and that is your personal angels, the ones who are there for you from birth to death, that are only focused on helping you. You don't need to choose them. They'll just reveal themselves to you. So I like to keep a journal for that and just ask the angels, ask one angel to come forward. And first you might feel it. Most people feel it before, so you're going to feel either chills, tingling, cooler, warmer. Unless they actually touch your body, you might feel a light touch. So the chills and tingling is the most common because the frequency of angels is so high, higher than spirit.
All the time, you see.
Then you're going to say, please show me your appearance, which is not going to be generally a winged being. It's going to be colors. So you want to look for a color, light, big light color, and keep your eyes unfocused so your third eye can see this. There's a long process, kind of a process for this whole thing, but then, the main thing is to see the same one coming in regularly. It's probably going to be your master guide or your guardian angel. And then you can work towards asking them to let you know their name, either right before you go to sleep or right before you do meditation, to set an intention of letting me know your name of one angel, whichever one you want to start with. But they reveal themselves to you once you open yourself up. And you're going to have the best luck with your own angels because they're desperate to connect with you. They're desperate to get information through to you for guidance.
Okay.
And then you ask me, how do you call them in? Just what I said, just start talking to them. Angels, I am ready to be, they hear you now. They're with you all the time. So you talking about this right now is telling them you're ready. So tonight, just, start tonight. And I recommend no more than 5 to 10 minutes of practice so you don't wear yourself out. When it's ready to happen, it'll happen. We all have barriers within us to mediumship, to angels, communications, to all of this. People can have barriers, and it might be easy for you to see them and not hear them, feel them, or it might be easier for you to feel them and not see them and hear them for a while. So just give yourself time and stay calm about it. Don't put pressure on yourself because it won't make it happen faster. That stress and worry about whether I'm doing it or not actually puts up an energy level they can't connect with. So anything you can do to raise your frequency makes it easier to connect with spirit and angels. So the number one thing you need to know, all of you need to know about being a medium, is it's not a career, it's a lifestyle. Something you have to pay attention to throughout every day of your life, everything you do, everything you eat, everything you listen to paying attention to whether it's pulling your frequency down or lifting it up. Because if it falls down too low or never gets too high, you will not be able to connect with spirit or angels. Does that answer your question?
I guess I was told that I was supposed to pick one that resonates with, so
well, that's probably talking about archangels, because that would presume you know their name.
Then I was told to get angel cards and start working with angel cards. This keeps coming through in different readings. I have a lot of friends that are mediums.
Give it a try.
This a long time.
Give it a try. It's not part of my process, but again, my process is not the only one, and it's certainly not the only one that works. It's just my process. So give it a shot if you keep hearing that, see what happens with that.
But I don't know how to select one.
But usually the cards are going to be about archangels, not your personal angels. Mm-hmm. There can't be cards about your personal angels because, boy, something's interfering with the signal here. Do you see it blipping like that? That's spirit activity. Anyway, they couldn't possibly know the names of your angels to have cards made about them, but try it. Give it a shot. Sherry is asking, what is my role in corporate business mediumship? My role is as a psychic. So I guide them through sales of large corporations, mergers, new employees, problems that are happening like theft, starting a business. I mean, just anything you can think of. And I do that for mom and pop businesses, and I do it for $240 million companies. So it's all across the board. I like it. It's fun.
That's really interesting, because I imagine you're dealing with some fairly skeptical types in the business world, and yet they come to you.
They get referred by somebody else who's used me for business purposes. And so, sometimes they feel awkward being there, but then they really get into it and they see the value and they stick with it.
And do you find that they start developing spiritually as a result of this, that they become quite interested in the other aspects?
They usually do. Yeah, that's absolutely true, Wendy. Yeah, they start opening up. If you can start believing that psychic skills actually exist, then you can start thinking there's other things that I thought maybe weren't true, but maybe they are. And that does happen a lot.
Fascinating. So, Ivory, I have a question. I have a lot of people who believe in guides, or who think they're communicating with their guides or their master guides, but they're resistant to the concept of angels. Is there a difference between a master guide and a guardian angel? And can you explain that to us?
There are just two different types of angels. A master guide is an angel, and it's one of the two main angels people have from birth to death, and so is a guardian angel. But a guide is never been an angel. A guide is generally a human who has gone into the afterlife. It can also be a deceased, it can be an ascended master. Sometimes a guide is an interdimensional being, which are every bit as high level as angels are in their frequency and their intentions. But usually they are deceased humans.
And angels have never been incarnate? Is that the difference?
No, and we have to cut them slack. Like sometimes they drive me crazy, and they laugh when I talk about this too, because they know they'll do things like when I was going through hell, barely able to keep myself together. They're like, you need to write a book, you need to host a talk show. And I would be like, I can't do that right now, but I will. And I kept telling them, I promise you I will. And they don't understand jobs and stress and being ill and family issues and pressures, that are happening to humans. They don't understand any of that. So, but there was something somebody said earlier, and I'm sorry I don't remember who said it, but it reminded me, it's okay. And it's a good idea for you to set boundaries with spirit of when they can come to you and when they can't. I set boundaries. They're not allowed to come to me in my bedroom or the bathroom. Once I go to bed, that's it, because otherwise I got spirits poking me and bouncing on the bed and just being really annoying, trying to get my attention through the night, and I can't get to sleep. So it's perfectly fine to say, if you want to communicate with me, I'm going to be available tomorrow at 10 a.m. Give them a time they can come back. And then when it's time, say, okay, whoever was coming to me last night, I'm available for you now. Because if they know that you're going to make time for them soon, a specific time to communicate, they'll usually leave you alone. And spirit's pretty good. Sometimes they get a little crazy and they just ignore boundaries and you have to reset them again, but it's perfectly fine. You do not have to be open 24/7.
Yeah, when I started really developing, it was they were waking me up in the middle of the night and I was so confused. So I finally learned, I wrote out on a piece of paper, do not disturb me between the hours of 11 and 8 a.m. I'm more than willing to help you when I'm awake, because I'm a horrible sleeper. And that worked. There's been a time or two where I'm like, off duty. But these were spirits that I had no clue who they were or what they needed. But now that I've been, working on my development, just spirits for people who need healing are the ones that are coming. I'm not getting the randoms that used to wake me up in the middle of the night, which is, my mediumship has gone all different kinds of ways, and I'm just trying to go with the flow. Because now, before I would sit in the power, I'd listen to, raise my vibration, get ready for, a class, and then wait for them to show up. Now someone can text me and say, do you think you could get in touch with my mother sometime? And I was like, well, I can't promise you, but maybe. And then bam, there she is. It's like, wait a minute, I haven't sat in the power, I haven't done anything. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but it's interesting. And it's a roller coaster.
Philip, the word gets out on the other side that you are available for business, whether you're charging or not. And spirits just start coming. And I have the same thing. Like if I talk about a deceased relative, boom, they're right, boom. If I'm talking to a client who's seeing me for spiritual counseling and they talk about someone who's died during COVID and they're sad, boom, that spirit's there. I'm not doing mediumship. So it doesn't matter. But I'm glad that you found a way to set that boundary. And what you were talking about, that it's the unknown spirit who come in.
Yeah.
The spirits of my dead deceased, they're respecting the boundaries pretty good. It's the ones I think who are new and maybe somebody hasn't filled them in and gone, no, don't wake her up. You're not allowed to wake her up between this hour and this hour. She's trying to sleep. They will poke me in the back and play with my hair and all kinds of stuff, or rudely, like literally bounce on the bed like a full human bouncing right behind me on the bed. So those are the times that you're going to have to reset that boundary, and you're informing a new spirit of exactly what your boundaries are, because it's like dealing with humans. If you don't set, I'm from the world of mental health. If you don't set boundaries with people, they're just going to tromp all over it you know, so you have to set your boundary, and then you got to reset it as often as necessary. If you give them an inch, they're definitely going to take a mile. So I'm talking about spirit here.
I do have a quick question. The
Sure.
past year, I have developed this ringing in my left ear. I don't know if I have an ear problem or it's spiritual.
I'm going to tell you, your left ear is your angel ear, Philip. My left ear is my angel ear. And so when angels come in, the first thing before I feel them, my ear starts ringing, and it's a very high-pitched ringing.
High pitch.
They're trying to get your attention. So when that happens, sometimes my business partner has it in her right ear, I have it in my left ear, and we'll both hear it start at the exact same time. But when that happens, what I like to do is turn off the TV, turn off radio, put my phone down, and I just say, okay, angels, what do you want me to know? What do you want to say? Because there's so many distractions that we can't receive the information our angels give us or the information spirit gives us unless we're giving it our full focus. Karen says she has that in her left ear, but she thinks it's a neck and back problem. Maybe, but pay attention to whether you feel angels entering, whether you feel that frequency at the same time that ringing starts. And conversely, if that ear hears a very low tone, there's something low frequency you need to blast out of your presence, because that'll be like a wom, wom. I rarely hear that, but occasionally, and I'll just blast that out. I'll ask my angels to help me and kabam, get that out of there. There you are.
Do you hear it like a sound or a voice outside of your ear, or do you hear it inside?
Even as a medium, I very rarely hear my angels with my ears. It's a thought in your head. And so part of this, you know, that's what I'm talking about in my book is like, how do you determine whether it's your own thought or an angel? I say a basic way is to ask yourself, were you thinking about that before you heard it? Did it seem like it was part of your own process, or would you have not come up with that idea? I sometimes find myself, like in the early days, I'd think, well, that's a weird thought, or where did that come from? And now I know those are like red flags that, hello, your angels are talking to you, but it's going to be in your head most of the time. But sometimes it's like they're shouting in your head.
I find this fascinating because a few months ago when my life went upside down and then I started working consciously on this, I got a very bad case of vertigo. And after that, then I had the ringing in the ears for a while. And now I don't notice it as much, but I can be in meditation and I'll start to hear it in my right ear. And then there's like this almost like a beep or like the sound of a telegraph. It's very strange and kind of mechanical. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Is it like a tapping?
It's more like not really a tapping, but like almost like just a tiny little beeps, or it's strange.
I hear all kinds of, sometimes I hear like a tapping, and I know I'm going to play it into the microphone. It'll be like, and that's I think that's spirit trying to get my attention, because I always get messages from spirit when I hear it. So I want to tell you, I know we're kind of wandering off the subject of spirit communications, mediumship with spirit, but I'm going to answer your questions. So there's a lot of things about your spiritual journey that vertigo fits under. And part of that can be if you're sensitive to energy, if you cross a ley line, you could get very dizzy. There's places, I'll tell you some examples. My house I had in Sedona, every time I walked past my sink in the kitchen, I'd get really dizzy and have to grab onto the counter to not fall over with vertigo. And then I found out there was a ley line under there by somebody who's really sensitive to that. And then there's a place here in the town right next to where I live. I went into this dollar store to grab something. This was so embarrassing. I walked into the store and took about 8 steps. And then as my leg lifted up, it was like I walked into a wall of thick gelatin and was frozen. And I was mortified. I couldn't move. I was stuck in it and I couldn't put my leg down and I couldn't move forward. And there was a clerk looking at me like, what a weirdo. And I felt like a weirdo, and I'd never had anything like that happen. And then later I found out from some of the people I know in the area who are also very sensitive that there's some kind of weird energy field right there that's just not good. So I just don't go back there anymore because that was embarrassing. But you can feel energy in odd ways. It can affect your balance. It can affect your hearing. It can affect your head. It can affect your well-being. So that's something you might want to start paying attention to, where the vertigo happens. Like, where are you when it happens? There's a corner I have to drive around near my house to go to my office. And every time I drive around that corner, I get vertigo. So does my business partner. So there's something energetically on that corner that's different.
Mine started with vertigo. Just out of the blue, I have to grab a hold of something, and then like,
yeah, I get vertigo a lot, and a lot of ringing in my ear. I've had this a long time. And it's interesting because I'm remembering something you told me that really, probably one of the things that really saved my life was you told me to go investigate Qigong.
Oh, yes.
And I did. I just remembered this just a little few after. And I've been practicing Qigong since then. But I am very sensitive to energy. And just going back to the tinnitus, because that's what we were talking about. So I do have a ley line in this house that I just took. I don't even know how to get rid of it. I mean, I know
you can't. It's part of the earth.
It's underground.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the front of the house. But I noticed, do I have it now? I don't. I think I still have the tinnitus. But I was told, well, Qigong-wise, my teacher told me that if you tuck your head in, you tuck your neck in, you put your arms down, tuck your neck in, and pull yourself up. Because if your neck is collapsing, which mine is, at my back, spinal stenosis, and I haven't been doing enough Qigong lately, so it started to reoccur. So when I'm like this, and if I do this exercise like 10 seconds off and on, the ringing goes away. But now that you tell me, it is unique to different rooms, because I'm sitting here and I don't think I feel it. But this is the center of the house. And feng shui, the center of the house is usually the best energetically. This is the best place where I put my desk in the house. It's the quietest energy, because I'm like you, and maybe not as sensitive as you, but I am so sensitive. And I just want to tell you a little bit. When I found out the reason why I was so sick and I couldn't get better was because where I was living was on a grave site that went back to the 1600s, and some of the people there were murdered, and they were coming to me for help because they felt that they had died too soon. And I didn't, they were in my sleep. And also I was starting to get paranoid, thinking everyone that I met wanted something from me. And this was because at night they all were coming to me, asking me for help, because they had this idea that I knew they were there.
Have you tried crossing those spirits over, Karen?
I don't have experience with doing that.
I'm going to tell you, just get a few friends together. Like when I didn't start out to do this, but I had I still do have a paranormal investigative group, and our specialty is crossing spirits over. So we won't go in and do places that, like hotels and restaurants, that are bragging about having a spirit, because we're going to cross them and they're not going to like us. So our thing is, we know those spirit, it's not in their best and highest good to be stuck here on earth, whether they know that or not. So something that you can do is just get a few friends together. Anybody can do this, and just hold hands in a circle, put gloves on, if COVID, be safe. And then just invite spirit, do some prayers, and invite any spirits that wish to cross. Oh, I feel there's a lot of them. There's an overwhelming amount of them that want to cross. So
I don't think I moved from that place because
well, anybody who has this,
telling them that I can't help them. They got the wrong girl. I mean,
you can't though. I mean, when you have mediumship ability, you can just hold hands with a few people. And if you pray and invite them to cross and say, we're going to help you, all you have to do is enter from underneath our circle and come up through the circle. We did that because a spirit and his wife told us he wanted to cross. And then hundreds, we were in a graveyard, hundreds of spirits came up through that circle. And it was almost like shocking and overwhelming. But then it felt really good. And we realized that's something we need to do. In EVP work with ghost box radios, recorders, the computer, there's a lot of help me's. I pray for them. There's a lot of things. Sometimes they don't go when they're initially invited to go, when they're initially shown the way, and then they don't know how. And they can get bound by people that are still here and then kind of get stuck, or a place that they like and kind of get stuck. They just don't really know how. So you can create that way, create that circle. You don't need, there's nothing specific you need to do other than creating the circle, praying, and inviting them to cross through. And they always come under the circle and then up. And you'll see, if you see spirits, you'll see just spirit, spirit, spirit rising up, and you'll feel that rush of their energy as they go upward through the circle. Yeah, I've heard those help me's too. I've got several. And sometimes that is them wanting your help. And sometimes they're in reenactment where they're reliving some moment. Like here in the West, there's a lot of Old West towns, and I've done some investigations there. And there's little outbuildings that came from different pioneer cities here. And they'll be, sometimes they say, help me, but if you get more of it, they're going through something. They're reliving a moment from their life again and again. And you're hearing their comment about that. But sometimes they do want your help. And not always with crossing over. Sometimes they don't understand why they even need to, or they don't even know that they're deceased. My website, excuse me, my voice is a little sore, is ivoryangelicmedium.com. And the podcast is the name of my business, the Sedona Soul Sisters Show. And so you can listen to it on Pandora, iHeartRadio, iTunes, any major podcast platform. It's a live show on Zoom on Fridays. You're welcome to do that. You can also watch it on YouTube, and we take questions. It doesn't matter how long after the episode, we will answer questions. So, and I will certainly answer any questions you have. If you contact me through my website, I'll remember you, and I'm happy. If you think of something later you wish you'd asked me or wanted to tell me, that's totally fine.
One thing I just wanted to ask you do healing in that business as well, don't you?
We do a lot of healing. All of us do some form or forms of healing. So I cannot do much medical Qigong energy healing anymore, but I'm working my way towards it. I had a back issue. So what I'm doing mostly for healing is thought field therapy, which is a neuroscience technique that I learned when I worked in mental health. And I do it for a lot of people. It's a one-time session that heals people of emotional, mental distress from a specific incident in their life, so that they'll remember what happened, but they'll never feel pain from it ever again in their life. And that allows people to begin healing on many levels. And it actually supports counseling work very well, so that if people get stuck in their counseling, this unsticks them. But I can't stand for people to be in pain. It's physically hurts me to know somebody's in pain. And that is something I know I can still do despite what's going on with my back as I'm healing. But we do a lot of things. In my business, there's crystal healing, there's past life regression, there's BQH, there's violet flame healing, just all kinds of things. One of our ladies who works with me, Terry Ann, does about 24 kinds of healing. That's her main thing. So within our business, there's 4 of us, and everybody does a pretty wide range of services. And all of us have been doing this for more than 25 years, except for the healer.
There must be an amazing energy when you walk into your premises there. I can only imagine.